The black Mercedes pulls up to the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in Hong Kong at exactly 9 p.m. on November 12, 1971. Two men in dark suits exit first, scan the lobby with professional precision, then nod to someone still inside the car. A third man emerges older, maybe 60, wearing an impeccably tailored suit that probably costs more than most people's monthly salary. He moves with the controlled precision of someone who's spent a lifetime commanding respect through presence rather than words. His name is Kazuo Taoka, and he's traveled 1,800 miles from Kobe, Japan, specifically to meet Bruce Lee. What happens in the next 3 hours will transform both men in ways neither expected. One will question everything he's built over 40 years. The other will confront blind spots in his own revolutionary philosophy. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's understand how a Hollywood martial artist and a Yakuza boss ended up in the same room. November 1971, Bruce Lee is filming The Big Boss in Thailand, his first leading role. He's 31, finally getting the opportunity he's fought for since leaving Hong Kong at 18. Word is spreading. Bruce Lee is something special. Kazuo Taoka is the supreme boss of the Yamaguchi-gumi, Japan's largest Yakuza organization. Not a street thug, a CEO of organized crime. Sophisticated, philosophical, he studied kendo since childhood, sees martial arts as the spiritual backbone of Yakuza culture. But lately, young Yakuza members are abandoning traditional arts. They're interested in Wing Chun, Jeet, Kune, Do, Bruce Lee, saying traditional martial arts are outdated. Taoka finds this philosophically offensive. For 40 years, he's maintained that Japanese martial arts represent the ultimate combat philosophy. Now young men question that belief, because of one Chinese movie star. So Taoka decides to meet Bruce Lee, understand what he teaches, validate it or expose it as nonsense. He sends a professional, respectful message. Taoka-san wishes to meet Lee-san to discuss martial arts philosophy. 3 hours, no business, only philosophy. Bruce is suspicious. Yakuza boss, a trap. But intriguing, the most powerful crime boss in Japan wants 3 hours discussing martial arts. Not typical extortion. Bruce agrees but sets conditions. Hong Kong, neutral location, no weapons. November 12, 1971, 9 p.m., Mandarin Oriental Hotel, Conference Room 7. One translator, Hong Kong University professor, with no criminal connections. Bruce arrives early. Taoka arrives exactly on time. Punctuality has respect. They bow to each other. Japanese formal bow from Taoka. Chinese respectful bow from Bruce. The translator positions himself off to the side, ready to facilitate but not interfere. Taoka speaks first, in Japanese, through the translator. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I know this is unusual. I wanted to understand what you teach. My men are abandoning traditional arts because they say yours is superior. I need to know if this is true. Bruce responds in English, through the translator. I don't teach people to abandon tradition. I teach them to question it. There's a difference. Taoka considers this carefully. Questioning tradition is how tradition dies. No, Bruce says. Accepting tradition without understanding is how tradition becomes empty ritual. Questioning tradition is how it stays alive. This exchange sets the tone for what follows. This isn't going to be a friendly conversation. This is philosophical combat. Two men with deeply held beliefs, testing each other's foundations. For the next hour, they debate. Not about techniques, about principles, about what martial arts actually are. Taoka's position: martial arts preserve ancient wisdom. The techniques are cultural artifacts, spiritual practices. To modify them is to sever connection to ancestors. Traditional arts create discipline, honor, respect. These values matter more than fighting effectiveness. Bruce's position: martial arts exist to deal with violence. If they don't work against actual violence, they're dance, not martial arts. Tradition has value only if it serves function. The moment tradition becomes more important than effectiveness, it becomes religion, not combat. They go back and forth. Taoka argues that difficulty creates character. Years of practice create discipline. Bruce counters. Difficulty for difficulty's sake is just suffering. Traditional martial arts make you good at traditional martial arts, but do they prepare you for real violence? At the 1 hour mark, something shifts. Taoka asks a question that changes the entire conversation's direction. Lee-san, have you killed a man? The room goes quiet. The translator hesitates, unsure if he should even translate that question. Bruce nods for him to continue. Bruce answers honestly, no, I've hurt people in fights, broken bones, caused injuries, but never killed. I have, Tauka says quietly, multiple times. Early in my career, when violence was the primary tool, before I understood that real power doesn't require killing. Do you know what I learned from those experiences? What? Bruce asks. That the actual violence is the least important part. The moment of killing takes seconds. What matters is everything before and everything after. The decision to kill, the living with having killed. The violence is easy. The humanity is hard. Bruce absorbs this. He's been teaching martial arts for years, training students, developing philosophy. But he's never had a conversation with someone who's actually killed people and built a philosophy around that experience. This is different. This is real. Tauka continues. Traditional martial arts teach restraint, not through technique, but through ritual, through years of practice that make violence difficult to access. Your approach efficiency, directness, stripping away unnecessary movement. It makes violence easier to access. That concerns me, because easy violence creates more violence. This is the most sophisticated criticism of Bruce's philosophy he's ever encountered. Not traditional arts are better because they're old, but your approach removes the barriers that prevent violence from becoming casual. Bruce responds carefully. Difficult access to violence doesn't prevent violence. It just means when violence happens, people are unprepared. I'd rather teach someone to be efficient at violence and wise about when to use it, than teach them inefficient violence wrapped in ritual that makes them feel spiritual while being ineffective. But who teaches the wisdom? Tauka asks, leaning forward. In traditional arts, wisdom comes built into the years of practice. In your approach, wisdom is separate from technique. What if someone learns your techniques without learning your wisdom? Bruce doesn't have an immediate answer. This is the vulnerability in his philosophy that he hasn't fully addressed. He teaches principles, not just techniques. But what if students take the techniques and ignore the principles? What if they use efficiency as an excuse for violence, instead of as a tool for avoiding it? At 2 hours, Tauka proposes, show me, real, what you would do if I attacked. Dangerous, Bruce says. I didn't come to Hong Kong to be safe. Show me. They stand, move furniture aside. Tauka removes his jacket, takes traditional kendo stance. 40 years of training visible in his posture. I won't attack you, Bruce says, but I'll show what happens if you attack me. Tauka commits. Straight strike toward Bruce's face. Fast. 40 years in that movement. Bruce shifts 6 inches. Strike misses by 3 inches. But Bruce's hand is already touching Tauka's arm. Fingertips only. Feel that? That's interception. I'm not blocking your attack. I'm intercepting your intention. The moment you committed, you created a vulnerability. Your structure is extended. I'm standing in the space your commitment created. Bruce's other hand extends slowly, stops 1 inch from Tauka's throat. If this were real, you'd be finished. Not because I'm faster. Because you committed to an attack requiring full extension. Traditional arts teach beautiful attacks, but commitment creates vulnerability. Again, 5 times, each time Tauka's perfect technique creates the vulnerability Bruce exploits. After the 5th attempt, Tauka sits. You're teaching people to see vulnerability in traditional techniques. That's why my men are interested, not weakness, Bruce says. Trade-offs. Students should understand what they're trading. Tauka shares something he's never told anyone. When I was young, I killed a man in a sword fight. Traditional kendo, perfect technique. Cut him down with 1 strike. In that moment, I understood. My training prepared me to kill efficiently, but taught nothing about whether I should kill. Technique perfect, decision wrong. That man didn't need to die. He looks at Bruce. That's my fear about what you teach. You're giving efficiency without years teaching restraint. Traditional arts aren't inefficient by accident. They're inefficient by design. The inefficiency creates time. Time to think. Time to choose. Bruce is silent. Then, you might be right. I've been focused on efficiency because I saw traditional arts becoming empty ritual. But maybe I've overcorrected. Maybe there's a way to be efficient and still build in time for wisdom. Tauka smiles. That would be something new. They talk for 30 more minutes. No longer debate. Collaboration, finding common ground. At midnight, exactly 3 hours after they started, they stand, bow to each other again. But this time it's different. There's mutual respect that wasn't there before. Acknowledgement between equals. Tauka says, I came here to determine if you were legitimate or a fraud. I learned you're neither. You're a reformer. Reformers are always controversial because they force people to question what they believe. You've made me question 40 years of certainty. That's uncomfortable, but it's valuable. Thank you. Bruce responds, I came here expecting a threat, maybe a test I'd have to survive. Instead, I met a philosopher. You've shown me the limitations in my own philosophy. I teach people to question tradition, but I haven't thought deeply enough about what's lost when tradition dies. That's a blind spot I need to address. Thank you for showing me that. They shake hands, a Western gesture, not Asian. Equals acknowledging equals across cultural boundaries. Tauka returns to Japan. Within months, changes begin in the Yamaguchi-gumi. He invites martial arts instructors from different styles to teach, not replacing traditional arts, supplementing them. He tells senior lieutenants, we've been so focused on preserving tradition that we stopped questioning whether it serves its purpose. Bruce Lee taught me that tradition without understanding becomes empty. Young Yakuza members noticed. Their boss met with Bruce Lee and came back changed. That legitimizes Bruce in ways no movie ever could. Bruce also changes. After the meeting, he incorporates more philosophy into his teaching. Not just how to punch efficiently, but when punching is necessary. He emphasizes that Jeet Kune Do isn't about being the best fighter, it's about being wise enough to avoid fighting. In interviews after 1971, Bruce's tone shifts, less confrontational about traditional martial arts. He starts saying things like, traditional arts have value if you understand what they're teaching. The problem isn't tradition, it's blind tradition. The translator is sworn to confidentiality. He honors that oath until both men are dead. In 2005, at age 78, he finally writes a memoir. The chapter about Bruce and Tauka is titled, When Two Masters Discovered They Were Students. He writes, I've translated for diplomats, criminals, and artists, but I've never witnessed a conversation like that night. Two men from completely different worlds, both absolute masters, both willing to question everything they believed when confronted with truth. Both left transformed because both were humble enough to learn. In 2018, a Japanese documentary filmmaker obtains access to Tauka's personal journals. In the entry for November 12, 1971, Tauka wrote, met with Lee, expected charlatan, found philosopher. He showed me that efficiency and wisdom are not enemies, they're partners I've been keeping separate. I've spent 40 years believing tradition and innovation cannot coexist. Tonight I learned they must coexist. The young men were right to be interested in his approach. I was wrong to dismiss it without understanding it. This meeting cost me nothing but pride. What I gained was worth the cost. The meeting between Bruce Lee and Kazuo Tauka lasted 3 hours, changed both men, created a philosophical exchange that neither publicized, but both honored through how they lived afterward. 3 hours. Two masters, zero violence, complete transformation. Real masters don't need to fight to test each other. They test ideas. And when both are genuine masters, both emerge transformed.